Hi, this is Red Ibis Coach. My name is Heather, and today I want to talk to you about aging again, because I'm going to continue to talk about aging. In particular, I'm going to talk about perimenopause. And why I'm talking about that is because women as young as 32 can start to be transitioning into perimenopause. So those are the hormonal fluctuations, which eventually wind it down to a complete cessation of menstruation. And once you hit 1 year of no menstrual cycles, then you are considered postmenopausal. So perimenopause is the hormonal changes that happens up to that 1 year mark, which says, okay, your periods are finished. Now you're in post menopause. So if our hormones start changing as young as 32, then the way we've been thinking about aging is wrong. Because if we have these transitions starting so early, then it's not just something that's happening to old women. Menopause, post-menopause is not something that's just happening to old women, like old little women with white hair, short white hair named Pearl or whatever. It's happening to you too. It's We're in this together at different stages if you're beyond the age of 32, and you might not realize that it's happening for you because there are all kinds of things that can be attributed to what's going on, but it could be perimenopause. And what does it mean if someone as young as 32 is starting to make their way toward that? That means when you hit 35 or 40 or 45, you're still young, you're still youthful, but your body is changing. And we have this impression that there's like this youthful part of adulthood and then a black hole with no real like understanding of what it means during those stages of life and what you're supposed to do and how visible or invisible you are and what you're supposed to care about, what you're supposed to wear, how you're supposed to show up in front of other people, the things you're supposed to be interested in. All of that is something that is tossed to the side and no one addresses. But if you are capable, like if your body is capable of going through perimenopause and menopause, you are part of a huge, over 50% of the world. This population is experiencing hormonal fluctuations always. And then eventually we transition out of being able to reproduce, which, in my opinion, is such a relief. Whether you want to have kids, you wanted to have kids and you didn't, or you're not having kids, you are choosing not to. The ability to just have that peace and to be done with that kind of hanging over your head can be a relief. So, when we're thinking about aging, the first thing that I think is important to remember is that no one is doing it in isolation. Many other women are doing it. And also, again, if perimenopause starts as young as 32, then the way we're thinking about aging isn't even correct. We are not just talking about like this process where you're like 30 and then maybe 35 and you just, I don't know, disappear off a cliff, fall off. What does that even mean? First of all, women can still, people who go through perimenopause, people whose bodies are capable of having children, that can still happen up to the point when menstruation completely ceases. So this idea that like only young women can have kids or old women shouldn't have kids or whatever it is, we're not thinking about age correctly. It's all mixed up. It's all weird. So that whole thing, your biology and how your biology determines how people treat you, already one weird thing that we're dealing with. But then also this obsession with being young and youthfulness and appearing youthful is, of course, really pathological. There's a lot of toxic mindset going on there because everybody ages differently, first of all. If you're not familiar, there is a medically, empirically studied phenomenon called weathering, where people who experience racism, their body actually ages faster, their telomeres shorten more quickly. So people don't age the same way internally. And then externally, people also age differently depending on genetics, depending on a lot of different factors. Do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you do drugs? How much stress do you have in your life? What kinds of trauma have you been through? Like all of these can factor in. If we're not allowed, if society looks and frowns upon us changing, us not staying the same, and there's only a very narrow way of viewing beauty and desirability, even though there are lots and lots of people who exist outside of it. Like the idea that only young people are beautiful is bizarre. That's not even true. But also that if you don't fall into a certain beauty standard, that you shouldn't exist or that it's embarrassing or whatever, you should be ignored. I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff that gets passed around. I don't know what my cat is doing. And um who cares? Honestly, fuck it. Um, why does it matter what some dude on the internet thinks about how you look? Why does it matter if someone says that you should do such and such in order to be appropriate for your age? Why does it matter if you are doing something that is considered too young or too old for whatever your age is? Why does it matter? Why is it anyone else's business? It's not. It's whatever you want to do. And if we step back from, or even like just disregard because it's useless to us, this idea that like you're young and then you're suddenly old and invisible, it opens up this possibility for you to be a full human being regardless of whatever age you are. And also, if we acknowledge that other people eventually, and more like quickly than we realized, more and more people are realizing that, perimenopause starts so early. It starts as young as 32. There's this whole spectrum of women who are existing in a way that society doesn't even acknowledge is real, but is actually happening. So until we are talking about it more, because like, first of all, we already ignore menstruation. We already hide it. We already medically gaslight women about their pain. We already do procedures on women without anesthetic. So we're already doing harm that doesn't need to happen. So when it comes to how we approach hormonal changes and aging, we have, um, it's easier. It's easier if you acknowledge and accept and are prepared for this process. It's easier if you acknowledge and accept and are prepared for the fact that you will not stay the same. And I mean, if you think about from the age of 20 to 32, that's 12 years of enormous change, physically, emotionally, mentally, maturity wise. You are only accumulating more wisdom, more life experience, more self acceptance, hopefully, self acknowledgement, self knowledge. You're starting to understand your preferences better. All of these are good things. Aging is not a problem. And if we think about youthfulness or being young as only one small part of the adult experience, because we look young or we have this youthfulness for only a fraction of our adult experience. And then once you start to get gray hair, once you start to get wrinkles or laugh lines or whatever, there's still like 40, 50 more years of your adulthood left. So why wouldn't we spend more time and put more energy and have more interest in the next 40 to 50 years? Or, even like when you're 30, the next, 50 years, you are actually only youthful and young in your adulthood for a fraction of it, right? So what I'm saying is it makes no fucking logical sense to hyperfixate on the youthful part of life, because the youthful part of your life, the part where you're considered young, is really like data data gathering, experimentation, trial and error, and just trying to figure out how to live. What does it mean to be alive? And then you have like 10 years of your adulthood where you're just trying to figure out how to take care of yourself as an adult and be fully independent. And then you're not young anymore, but you still have all of this life left. Life can be very long for those of us who are lucky. So we have to start having a vision for what that will look like and what that does look like even now, whatever age you are. Taking control of it and not letting society run the narrative of when you're valuable, when you're useful, when you're attractive, when you're desirable, because a lot of that is going to actually come from you. Sure, society has opinions that are stupid and who cares about them, but also, what about you? How do you want to move through the world? How do you want to be treated? You get to choose who's around you, and they will treat you however they treat you, and you can choose to keep them around or move on and move away from them. And all of that is actually within your control. So this narrative that like once you start aging, everything gets away from you and you're not as valuable and you don't have as much meaning. That's bullshit. You just got started figuring out what it means to be alive. You just got started. You're just getting started. The development of a human being is so much more interesting than whether or not they can maintain, I don't know, a wrinkle-free forehead. Like, what the fuck? So your priorities matter more and more as you get older. And being fixated on appearing youthful will limit and narrow your experience and probably make you sad. There are so many other things that you can choose to feel based on what you put energy into and what you choose to prioritize. So to me, it makes more sense to Write your own narrative because no one's written it. No one's written it. There's only like what? Grandma? Spinster? What is that? That doesn't even tell you anything about the person except for who they are to someone else. Who are you to you? What do you want the story of the rest of your very long adulthood to be? Because there are so many more interesting things that will happen, so many more interesting experiences you can have. Ideally, you have a little bit more income than you did when you were younger. Ideally, you have more wisdom. You have the right people around you. And if you don't, you know what you can do to make it possible to have the right people around you. Nothing bad is happening to you if you're getting older. We all get older. None of us are frozen in time, and that's a good thing. Thanks for watching.